And welcome back to the Upside Sports Network. My name is Michael. Appreciate you guys joining us once again for our daily show covering the entire Major League Baseball hot stove season. So we appreciate you guys joining us last night for our premiere episode, kind of breaking down all the different teams around Major League Baseball, what their needs are, what they could look at in free agency, what trades they might be considering, where players might land. Today we're going to get more into what we're going to be doing every single day, going over the latest rumors, going over the latest signings, those types of things. So make sure you guys hit that subscribe button and join us daily. We're going to be doing it 5 days a week, every weekday, and then we'll probably do it every now and again, a weekend show. When we get to the MLB winter meetings in a few weeks, I've already taken off from work. We'll be live quite a bit during that time period. So we appreciate you guys joining us for that. Welcome back, Jordan. Appreciate you for joining us once again. A little bit of news. Just a moment ago anyway, the A's have acquired Abraham Toro. Toro is, of course, the player that's been traded quite a bit now, ever since his time with the Houston Astros. Spent some time with the Mariners, Milwaukee, and now finds his way to Oakland. So hopefully he can find a permanent long-term home there. But as far as news from around Major League Baseball, Blake Snell wins the NL Cy Young. Garrett Cole wins the American League Cy Young. Welcome back, Sarah. I couldn't agree with you more. I think the Cardinals are very likely to get at least one, probably two high-end starting pitchers. Whether that be through trade or free agency remains a question. We talked a lot yesterday about the possibility of Tyler Glasnow being available from the Tampa Bay Rays. The two teams that I've seen connected to him the most anyway would be the St. Louis Cardinals and the Texas Rangers. Texas, I think, has more of an immediate need for a short-term starting pitcher, so he's got 1 year left on his deal and would be eligible for a qualifying offer after this season. That's why I think the Texas Rangers probably have the inside track on that one, because they're going to have Jacob deGrom back fully healthy the following year. But the Cardinals make a ton of sense as well. They have a lot of prospect capital to work with. They have some history as far as trades between the two franchises before. Texas has that as well with Nathaniel Lowe, the trade back then as well. One of the few trades that actually worked out well for the Texas Rangers and not exactly great for the Tampa Bay Rays. But we could start to see some return on that investment with Wander Franco being out. I'm guessing for a significant period of time. Basabe, one of the players they got back in that Nathaniel Lowe deal, finally broke through the major leagues at the end of last year. We'll see if he gets some significant run with Franco being out due to his domestic violence issues. But I don't know about that one, Jordan. Hicks was a good player, for both teams. He was good for the Cardinals. He was good for the Jays. Paul DeYoung, filled a hole for the Blue Jays while they were waiting for Bo Bichette to come back from injury and was insurance just in case he was going to be out for the year. So, to at least get major league level production, or at least decent production, solid defense out of that spot while Bichette was on the shelf, I think he served his purpose. He ended up getting DFA'd, ended up, I think, with the Giants or something like that out on the West Coast. But either way, I think both sides got what they wanted out of it. But that's kind of the news from around the major leagues today. Very little news is probably going to happen up until Thanksgiving. We could see some trade possibilities start to filter in as we get closer to Thanksgiving, however. The news today is that the Blake Snell market seems to be picking up a little bit. There was some rumors about Cincinnati being involved in his market, as well as the Cardinals. Now, of course, the Padres have been linked to him, as well as the Dodgers and Giants. Now, Giants, I believe, are probably the best option out of those for Blake Snell. I think he would fit great in that system. Bob Melvin, his manager from last year, where he won the Cy Young this past year, is the new manager there in San Francisco. And they just, the way they work their rotation, 5 innings, get the guy out. That's exactly the type of pitcher Blake Snell is. Logan Webb's the exception to the rule there. He's able to pitch deep into games. They need starting pitching. The loss of Carlos Rodon was impactful for them. Sean Manaea, etc. They didn't really fill the gap that was left by Rodon. And while Rodon was not good with New York, the year previously with the Giants, that's part of the reason why they had such a big successful year. And a couple of seasons ago when they got to 107 wins and won that division. So if I had to pick a favorite right now for Blake Snell out of the three, Padres, Dodgers, or Giants, I would say far and away the San Francisco Giants, pardon me. But San Francisco's been a loser in free agency the past 2 years. They need to come away with some high-profile free agents. They don't need to settle for, row C and row D options like Michael Conforto, Mitch Haniger, etc. that they've had to settle for in the years past. They need to get some of these big free agent deals done. The deals that they had fall through for Carlos Correa, Aaron Judge, among other free agents that they've really tried for and ultimately failed to acquire. They cannot fall short this time. I don't think that fan base will allow them to fall short this time. They're going to have to put their money where their mouth is and support that fan base that's been with them through this tough couple of years. You want Yamamoto or Nola, please? I could see Nola. There's been significant interest there. However, I think there's more interest out there on the West Coast. I think Nola's got a very robust market. There's teams out there that really need some starting pitching, even on the East Coast, back with the Baltimore Orioles. But for me, I think he's probably earmarked for the LA Dodgers at this point. Yamamoto, I think as far as the teams that he could go to, I think it's anybody's guess right now. The inside track initially, I would have to have guessed would have been the Yankees and Mets. Take the Yankees out of that equation after the comments Cashman had said about Giancarlo Stanton. Now, I'm sure they could mend fences, but the agent that Giancarlo Stanton has is also the same agent for Yamamoto, and I think that's going to play big. You saw the comments from the agent basically saying foreign and domestic players both need to pay attention to how the team treats their players, how the market treats their players, and understandably, Stanton hasn't played well in New York, but he has carried them at times, especially in the postseason when they made it a couple of years ago. But it's been a tough couple of years now for Brian Cashman. I think the move to be able to bring back Aaron Judge gave him another year. But I think if they miss the playoffs this season, I think we're going to be looking at a new GM in New York. Please tell me Matt Chapman is not coming back. I would love to tell you that. He's a great defensive third baseman. Don't get me wrong, but there are so many high-quality defensive third basemen in the game that you can get for under $5 million. So I don't understand why the market thinks he's going to be, worth $20 million. You look at his production offensively over the last several years now. Even back with Oakland, he started his struggles back then. This past season hit 350 essentially for the first 5 weeks of the season. The last 5 months plus, he was not very good, hit to 206, and that was more along the lines of what he's been doing the last couple of years. I just don't see why he would justify that type of salary if I was managing a team. But I guess the price of poker is high. Position player market isn't very deep unless you're willing to trade for it. And that could be part of the reason, just the scarcity of position players on the market. But for that money, give me a guy like Evan Longoria, short-term, one-year deal. Give me a guy like Tommy Pham. Give me a guy like Mitch Garver. All of those players I would rather have than pay Matt Chapman. So as far as for the Blue Jays, they're one of the hardest teams in on him. I've heard quite a few teams out on the West Coast as well are interested in him as well. Looking at the Arizona Diamondbacks, looking at the San Francisco Giants. Those are a couple of the big market teams that are interested, I say big market. Arizona's starting to get up there a little bit as far as salary, especially when you consider their run into the postseason gives them a little extra money to spend this offseason. So if they wanted to spend at the top of the market, they could. But I think they're going to go with more of an internal option. You look at a team like the New York Yankees, another team that's been long coveting a third baseman like Matt Chapman. But again, are they willing to be saddled with another $20 million salary for a player who can't perform offensively? So we shall see what ultimately happens, but for my money, I think Matt Chapman either stays with the Blue Jays or ultimately finds his way out to the West Coast. Lars, BFF is Yamamoto, and both him and Arenado have the same agent as Yamamoto. Okay. Like I said, I still don't think anybody's really a favorite for Yamamoto. The only thing thing that's happened for Yamamoto so far is that the Yankees really have taken a back seat to all the other teams. You look at teams like the Padres, the Giants, the Dodgers, the Mariners, the Diamondbacks, the Rangers, the Cubs, the Cardinals, the Mets. I'm sure I'm missing a few others, but the Blue Jays as well are all in the market for Yamamoto, and I'm not sure any one of those teams has a big foothold over any other team. Sure, I'm sure a leader in the clubhouse, quote unquote, but nobody's really pulled away as far as anything I've seen out there. Yamamoto seems to be pretty much fair game. We'll see what the market ultimately dictates for him. Now, of course, the biggest story this offseason is what's going to happen with Shohei Ohtani. That seems to be all everybody wants to talk about, much like last year it was Aaron Judge, this year it's Shohei Ohtani, and rightfully so. This is the Babe Ruth of our generation. In fact, Babe Ruth still has never done the things Shohei Ohtani's been doing the last couple of years. In fact, Shohei Ohtani going into next season is going to be a bat first guy only. He might actually win the Triple Crown and be, I believe, the only guy to ever win the Triple Crown and win the Cy Young, etc. And I think that's a really great thing to happen for our game right now. I think baseball would be a much better place, a much better, much broader appeal to have a player like this really elevate and not just fizzle out over the final 5-6 years of whatever the deal he's about to sign is going to be. So as far as what could the contract look like, I'm expecting north of $45 million for sure every single year. I'm expecting a deal probably in the 10 to 12 year range. We're probably looking in the neighborhood of $525 to $600 million. That's probably what it'll ultimately take to get Shohei Ohtani. Now, the teams that are said to be heaviest in the market for him, the New York Mets, the Texas Rangers, the Chicago Cubs, and of course the favorite going into this past offseason was the LA Dodgers. They, of course, reset their luxury tax considerations going into this year, and so that's why you saw them take a little bit of a step back as far as production on the field. That's why they didn't re-sign their most recent free agents like Trey Turner, among others. They need to rebuild that starting staff. We saw that become a little bit of a shortcoming there. They need a little bit more bullpen help as well. And that's on top of whatever they decide to do with Shohei Ohtani. Ohtani's not going to solve their pitching issues next season. So if they bring in Shohei, they're still going to have to spend for a starting pitcher. And that's why I look at guys like Yamamoto, Aaron Nola as being most likely options for the Dodgers to be able to bring in. Jordan Montgomery wants to stay in either Texas or go back to the Cards or Yankees. I saw that on MLB Network earlier today as well. I believe Montgomery really wants to go back to Texas. That was the most recent headline that I've seen, and who can blame him? Pitched to the best he's ever had in his entire career since the trade to Texas. Really, comfortable there. The situation, pitching coach that he's comfortable with, and Mike Maddox. Won a World Series, was able to really perform in the postseason for that team, and could really kind of resonate with that fan base as kind of their guy going forward. Because you look at that rotation, they've got Eovaldi right now at the top, along with guys like Andrew Heaney, John Gray, Dane Dunning, and then of course Max Scherzer. Max Scherzer's only going to be there for 1 year. Eovaldi could be gone after this year. John Gray could be gone after this year. And then you're looking at a rotation of DeGrom and possibly Montgomery after this season if he signs in Texas. With the injury issues of DeGrom, you could be looking at Montgomery as the number one starter in Texas for the next couple of years. That would be something I would find appealing if I were him. He seemed very comfortable with the team, seemed to fit in right away with the team as well. But the Texas Rangers are also looking at bullpen help as well. So as far as Jordan Montgomery's market, the Red Sox have said to have considerable interest in him. I think he would be a great fit there as well. But I think him staying with one of the teams he's more comfortable with would be best for him. Looking at the Texas Rangers, looking at the Cardinals, both teams he had great success with. I don't think he really wants to go back to New York. There is some considerations out there that say, hey, he wants to be in the Bronx, etc. I just don't think it really fit. The way the team handled him on the field didn't work. He may have enjoyed it off the field, but you can always have your off-season home there, I suppose. But as far as the production that he was able to provide on the field, you just saw so much better performance anyway once he moved to the St. Louis Cardinals, and even better when he got to Texas. The further he got away from that New York Yankees system, a team that didn't trust him to throw his own stuff, the better he performed. Mike Maddox trusted him last year I say last year, it's now 2 years, I guess you could say, with the St. Louis Cardinals, and this past season with the Texas Rangers. So something to keep in mind as far as the Jordan Montgomery market. A little bit of update anyway on Cody Bellinger. A lot of headlines out there about where he might go. The three teams heaviest in the mix for him seem to be the Giants, the Cubs, and the New York Yankees. You notice the Giants are in on a lot of the big fish. They really have to be. They've struck out quite a bit over the last couple of years. They need to bring in somebody. And the best position player on the market, Cody Bellinger, are you willing to spend 8 years, 160 though for him? It's probably going to be what it's going to take in order to get the deal done. Monty with the Rangers or Cards, I'm predicting. I agree with that one. If I had to guess right now, if I had to pick a team, I would say he stays in Texas. I think the Cardinals are going to try to go out there and add 2 starting pitchers. I think the price might shy them away from a guy like Jordan Montgomery. I think the contract is probably going to be looking something in the range of 5 years, 120, 5 years, 135, 6 years, 150, somewhere in there. And I think that's going to scare the Cardinals off. There's a lot of pitching on this market. There's a lot of opportunities out there to bring in some guys. And I think the Cardinals, seeing that price tag, will say, hey, we'll spend that on 2 pitchers instead of one big option. But I do believe they are hunting at the top end of that market right now. Like I said, they have interest in Blake Snell. They have interest in Sonny Gray, among others. And I think there is a great chance they're going to bring some high quality pitchers in there. They're not just going to be stuck with bounce back candidates, injury riddled guys. You think of guys like Tyler Mahle, who's not even going to be able to pitch till July after the deadline. They're not going to be stuck with just guys like that. They might sign them, but they're going to be looking at starters that can come in and make an impact. That rotation was just so up and down. I think a lot of that has to do with their catching situation with Wilson Contreras just behind the plate. The way they handled that to start the season just was all kinds of choppy, and he never really got comfortable with the pitching staff after that. Maybe a year, removed from his free agent contract. Maybe he'll settle down a little bit, more comfortable in St. Louis, learned a few things from Yachty, etc. That might help the Cardinals overall. But for me, I think they're going to be priced out on Jordan Montgomery, where they're going to go another direction. Sonny Gray, I think, is going to be a high-quality pitcher for him, Sarah. So I think if you get Sonny Gray, that would be great for you guys. 5 years, 100. Seems like a fair contract for him. Maybe 5 years, 110. And then maybe you go a little bit cheaper on the second guy. Maybe a bounce-back candidate for a guy like Sean Manaea. But Kenta Maeda's out there. There's a lot of starters out there on the market. Just take your pick. There's like 25 guys you can count on to come in and at least give you 100 to 150 innings. There's a couple of guys out there that could give you 150 to 180. Maybe 1 or 2 guys who could give you 180 to 200. Nola being one of those guys. So we'll see what ultimately happens. Maybe they get a guy like Yamamoto, at the top of the market, and then we'll go real cheap on the second starter. But I think they're going to be priced out on the market for a guy like Montgomery. Michael Wacha's another guy out there. Seth Lugo, both guys who pitched really well with the Padres last year, are looking for new homes. Wacha, a return to St. Louis, I think would be good for him. There is some belief that he already has his eyes set on the San Francisco Giants as well. So the Giants, I believe, are going to spend money. I think they're kind of putting some of these guys, like the Michael Wachas of the world, on the back burner until they figure out what they're going to do at the top of the market with guys like Cody Bellinger, guys like Blake Snell, and then they'll have those fallback options in Michael Wacha, etc. So we'll see what happens. Should be a very fantastic free agency period as far as the pitching side is concerned. As far as hitters, there's not too many position players anyway to really have your eyes light up for. But as you can see behind me, Matt Chapman's really the only one up there that's a position player. Ohtani's a DH, if you want to call that a position, but primarily a pitcher. Julio Urias, I'm not sure what's going to ultimately happen with him as far as what's going to happen off the field for him. There's some concerns, domestic violence, etc. Speaking of domestic violence accusations anyway, Trevor Bauer seems to be a guy that's going to get a contract this offseason with a major league club. Now, remains to be seen what he has in the tank. It's been a couple of years since he's been able to pitch in a major league game. We'll see how effective he actually is. I don't expect it to be anywhere near the 3 years, 130 or whatever he signed with the Dodgers, but he is a high-quality pitcher, and a team is going to take a chance on him with 8 teams needing at least 2 starting pitchers and another 15 to 20 teams needing at least 1 bona fide starter plus other supplemental starters, back-end starters, long relief options. He is going to be able to find a spot in somebody's rotation this offseason. The question will be which team is ultimately going to have the stomach for him. All the off-field concerns, I'll let you guys read into some of those. A lot of accusations that ultimately turned out to be false. He seemed to be a subject of a little bit of a scam, if you will, as well. Major League Baseball, I think, gave him the harshest penalty that's ever been given for domestic violence. and they may have overstepped. And I think teams are going to see that and say, hey, time to give him another shot. Not saying they condone the behavior that he did anyway, but they need starting pitching. And we've seen it in the NFL before where domestic violence just really seems to be a hot button issue. But when push comes to shove, players that are actually able to perform still get those contracts. Believe whatever you want as far as the impact or the good or bad, the morality of all of it. It's just the fact of the matter that they're going to be able to get a contract in the NFL, and now we're going to see some of that go over to Major League Baseball with Trevor Bauer. Eduardo Rodriguez, I'm predicting either the Phillies or the Orioles. I think he's going to get 5 years, 100. As far as who ultimately signs him, sounds like the Tigers really want him back. I think he's going to be out of their price range. I think Dylan Cease ultimately gets traded this offseason to the Baltimore Orioles, and that's why I think they are not going to get Eduardo Rodriguez. I think he's ultimately going to sign. I think the Cardinals are a good bet for him. I think the Cincinnati Reds are an even better bet for him as well. So I think the Reds are looking for a top-end starter. I don't think they'll get one of the top-end guys. Rodriguez is still a pretty good pitcher, but you look at some of his outlying numbers, they aren't necessarily as good as the top-end guys like a Nola, a Gray, a Snell, a Yamamoto. And so I think they ultimately end up with a fallback guy like Waka or Eduardo Rodriguez. So we'll see what happens there as well. But for me, I think the Cincinnati Reds ultimately end up with Eduardo Rodriguez. But I appreciate you guys joining us this evening. If you guys have questions, please feel free to send them to us. We're going to start posting some videos over the next couple of days as well. Get back into the swing of things as far as those short videos as well. Keep you guys updated on all the latest rumors from around Major League Baseball. We're going to do a little bit of a game here with trades here in just a moment. But make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. It certainly does help us out. Like I said, we're going to be live for you guys every single weekday. And we're going to even do some on the weekend as well. Kind of updating you guys every night on what's going on around Major League Baseball. And as I said, we're going to be live for you guys during the winter meetings as well. Make sure you hit that subscribe for us as well. Join us over there on X at Upside SN and over on Facebook at Upside Sports Network. But let's head on over to baseballtradevalues.com. Great site if you guys want to see what value is out there for your type of player, etc. We talked a little bit about Glasnow yesterday, so let's go ahead and try to do another. We also got into Juan Soto as well. Let's do a little bit on the Guardians. Shane Bieber's the guy that's available for them. We're going to go over to the majors here just to make it simple. And there he is. His value, surplus of 5.7. You can see his value isn't necessarily as high. The injury issues are the concern there. We talked about the Texas Rangers being a great fit but for a Tyler Glasnow trade, possibly an Ezekiel Duran going the other way. We'll use the Rangers as an example here. For Bieber, though, it wouldn't cost nearly that level of prospect. So let's say we do Bieber here for the Rangers going the other way. Guardians, they're going to look for some outfield help. So say the Rangers, they have an outfield glut right now. They could go ahead and trade some of that. So let's say they want to do Leody Taveras, for instance. On the face of it, you're like, hey, Leody isn't half the starter or isn't half the player that Shane Bieber is. Well, you look at the contract and the ability of Leody Taveras to defend every day in center field. His availability is one of the greatest abilities of him. And his bat's finally starting to come around over the last year and a half. For Shane Bieber, he's only got 1 year left, so you don't really have contract control. The Rangers are looking for a short-term starter option. So you just look at this trade right here. Maybe the Rangers could get somebody else that they need on their roster as well. What could the Guardians ultimately give up that kind of fits that? Let me get this pulled up again. You're not going to get a huge option here, but maybe the Guardians are in a little bit of a roster crunch anyway, so they need to get some of these guys off of the 40-man to be able to protect them. That's what they had the issue with Cal Quantrill. Maybe you could convince them to give you Cal Quantrill as well. That seems to be a fairly even type of a deal because he's already DFA'd at this point. But you look at the other options, you could go for one of these relievers that got certainty of control. Maybe you go after a Trevor Stepan. That would be a good option for them as well. Just looking at that right there, Rangers pick up a reliever and a starter for Leody Taveras. We saw the trade a few years ago. I say a few years ago. It's probably been 5 or 6 years ago now. the Adam Eaton trade to the Washington Nationals that got them Lucas Giolito, Dane Dunning, Ronaldo Lopez, and another piece as well. You look at all those pieces, 3 of those 4 became impact players in Major League Baseball for a center fielder who was on a controlled contract anyway for about 4 years left at that point. So that's the type of return I could see the Rangers getting for Leody Taveras. Maybe a little bit less because at the time Giolito, I believe, was the #1 prospect in that national system. I'm not saying that the Rangers could get a #1 prospect for him, but I think they could get quite a haul. Whereas outside observers might say, hey, Leody Taveras, he's not a household name. Why is he getting this level of trade return? It's because he plays center field at a premium position. He's a good defender. He's available. He doesn't get injured. The only time he missed, I believe, was at the very start of the year. Missed like 2 weeks, I believe. They ultimately rushed him back, and he didn't really miss any time after that. His bat can be a little streaky at times, but his ability to play defensively every day and his ability that he's shown some improvement with his bat in each of the last 2 years, that gives some teams who struggle perennially with outfield help, like the Guardians, like the Padres, that could have some interest in a player like that. Welcome back, Bryce. Yankees will be active for 2 lefty bats and 2 pitchers. I believe that to be true as well. I think they're probably going to be looking for a corner outfielder as well, with one of those lefty bats and a corner infielder, probably third base. Josh Donaldson, of course, no longer there. I think Matt Chapman probably be an option that could go there, but I think they're going to try to move off the contract of Gleyber Torres, save a little bit of money. They're in the market for a guy like Juan Soto. They're in the market for Yamamoto, but with the comments that were said about Stanton, I wouldn't say that helped their chances to bring him in, but I do believe they will add at least 2 starting pitchers. As far as bullpen help, I think they could use at least one more back into the bullpen type player. Think of guys like David Robertson, guys who aren't going to cost a whole lot but have shown a track record of sustainable success. The Yankees need to get in the postseason to save Brian Cashman's job. They really need to make a run in the postseason, at least into the second round, probably even to the ALCS to save his job. But otherwise, Cashman's really started to run on some rough times there, both with the New York media, just the production of the team itself. And then the only really good thing that he's done the last couple of years is being able to bring back Aaron Judge, and that was more on the owner, Hal Steinbrenner. Not sure how much Cashman really was the guy responsible for getting that done. From what I understood at the time, Cashman was sure part of the discussions, but Hal Steinbrenner and Aaron Judge were the ones that were having the texting conversations back and forth that were able to convince him to stay there. It wasn't him texting Brian Cashman. So that tells me Judge has more of a relationship with ownership. That's part of the reason why he came back. And ultimately, the team did not perform well. The contracts that he has doled out recently, the trades that he's made have ultimately not worked out. You look as recently as, say, 3-4 years ago, they had guys on the team like Gio Urshela, players that were performing ahead of their contracts. Now they've got guys that are playing beneath their contracts. Guys like Giancarlo Stanton, LeMahieu's production has really backed up the last couple of years. Aaron Hicks was absolutely terrible for them last year. Literally the next day he goes to the Orioles and he's a 2-win player for them the rest of the way. So just things have not gone well in New York for Brian Cashman. And I think a lot of that has to do with the moves that he's been making. And now he's getting into feisty conversations, to put it mildly, with media members and agents now. Not exactly things that give you or signs that give you confidence that he's feeling very secure in his job. I think he's starting to feel the pressure a little bit more than he has in, say, the last 15 years. And this is a new experience for him. We'll see how he responds, if he's able to, fix these issues or not. So we talked a little bit here about a trade that could, go down between the Guardians and Rangers, detailing Shane Bieber. There's a lot of guys out there on the trade market, so let's clear this out. We're going to go to Milwaukee. I was watching the live that John Heyman did on Bleacher Report just 3 or 4 hours ago anyway. I say 3 or 4 hours ago, probably 5 or 6. Anyway, but he was talking about how he doesn't believe the Brewers are in sell mode. I find that hard to believe. I get why Heyman was saying that on BR Walk-Off anyway. He was saying essentially that this team has always tried to be competitive, has always tried to stay in the mix, and I think they'll still try to do that. But I think they also realize they have no pitching coming. They have nothing to turn to. They have a healthy amount of outfielders that they can go with. They have some good options there in the middle infield. They've got their catcher option already solidified. I think there's a better than equal chance that they're going to trade some pieces. Woodruff's in the final year of his deal. Burns is in the final year of his deal. Adames is in the final year of his deal. Woodruff, of course, is injured at the moment. He probably won't be able to pitch until after the trade deadline, so you're not really going to get anything for him right now. Maybe you ultimately package him with Burns just to save some salary in the beginning of the season. But this is a team that's clearly in kind of a retooling phase. I think they need to bring in some young starting pitching. You look at what they could get for a guy like Corbin Burns. The LA Dodgers make a lot of sense because they have some controllable starters that could immediately go into that rotation and just need time to develop. But if they want to stay around the periphery of contention in that NL Central, that's one way they could do that. Then, of course, they still have Woodruff, like I said, and Adames that they could look to move. Dodgers, another team, like I just said, would be a fit for Burns, are a team that would also fit for Adames. So we'll see what happens there. Glaber is more than certain to get traded, I believe 85%. I'll go ahead and put that at 95, 98% even for Gleyber Torres getting moved. There's a lot of talk about a fit between the Miami Marlins and the Yankees at the trade deadline and the offseason last year. Ultimately, neither happened. There's been some conversations that the Red Sox and Yankees make a great fit. Alex Verdugo going one way, with Gleyber Torres going the other. Makes sense on paper, but again, that's division rivals. That's one of the best rivalries ever in sports. I'm not sure how likely a trade between the two teams is at this point, considering the issues that they have between the two franchises, but I get how that would make some sense. But Gleyber, I do believe, will be gone at some point. It's just a matter of whether or not it happens before the winter meetings or after. I think that's probably a move that gets done after. I think the Yankees have too many irons in the fire when it comes to big-name free agents and the top end of the trade market. I think they're looking hard at Juan Soto. I think they're looking hard at Shohei Ohtani, Yamamoto, a number of other starters that are out there, including Matt Chapman from a third base perspective as well. They have bigger fish to fry than Gleyber Torres. Once the chips start to fall, then they'll start to see their opportunity to move a Gleyber Torres. Like I said, there's not a lot of great position players out there this year, so they should not have any issue moving a player like Gleyber, who does perform quite well from time to time with the bat, has some defensive issues at times. He reminds me a lot the way he plays defensively of Robinson Cano, the way he was just too cool for school, the way he played the positions. Sometimes that can lead to errors from time to time, but we shall see. When do you think moves start to pick up, and when do we see the first domino? I think the first domino is probably going to be some of these guys going back to their own teams. For instance, I think there's a great chance that Jordan Montgomery actually gets done right around Thanksgiving, maybe the day before or the day after. But I think we go into the winter meetings with him already signed. And if I had to guess, I would say he goes to Texas 5 years at 125, we'll call it. We'll look it back up here in a couple weeks and just see how close my prediction is. But that would be one of the dominoes I would expect to fall early. And then beyond that, it's tough to see anything really happening before Thanksgiving. Now, after we get to Thanksgiving, that's when you're really going to see a lot of the trade talk kick up. You're going to see a lot of these free agents that are going to be forced into these low ball offers from clubs, especially on the position player side, just because the top end guys are going to get higher money than what they're probably worth. And so teams are going to try to get lower cost options first. And if they get those deals done, they'll steer clear of those top end options like Bellinger, like a Chapman, etc. But I think those are a couple of guys that could go off the market quickly. Mitch Garver, another guy from the Texas Rangers, I think could go very quickly as well. The market for Nola is moving fairly quickly here, but I think that's going to be around the winter meetings. I don't think that's going to happen around Thanksgiving. Snell's market seems to be developing a little quicker than I think it otherwise would have, especially with him being in Cy Young consideration. I think he's front of everybody's mind, and that's why his market might be a little further than players like Yamamoto, etc. We also have Imanaga, who's coming over from Japan as well. We'll see where he goes, but let us know in the comment section where you guys think these guys are ultimately going to go. Dylan Cease, I think there's a chance he gets done after Thanksgiving, but before the winter meetings. But I think he ultimately gets traded before the start of the regular season either way. But appreciate you guys joining us tonight. We'll be live for you guys, like I said, every night. This is kind of one of our shorter lives because there isn't too much news out there. We'll have some fun with you guys on this baseball trade values with you guys tomorrow night, so make sure you guys join us then, and we'll get started with some of our short videos over the next couple of days as well. So appreciate you guys joining us once again. Had a lot of fun with you guys this past season, covering a lot of baseball. Last off season, we did a daily show as well. We're going to do that same kind of thing this year. That's what we're going to do here at the Upside Sports Network. So make sure you guys hit that like and subscribe if you haven't already. Show is going to be MLB Hot Stove Daily. So make sure you join us every night, weekdays, and even on the weekends. When some news breaks, we're going to go live for you guys. So make sure you join us, and we'll see you guys tomorrow evening. Y'all have a good one.